Now I can't hear you if you're talking, Jeff. Or not, but you need to change your mic settings.
What? Can you hear me, Kevin? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Jeff. Are you here for CSAG? Yes. All right, great.
Test, test. Good? All right, thanks, Brandon. I appreciate that. All right, we got the recording and the transcript going. We'll just wait here a few more minutes. I wonder if there's a way to turn the camera onto.
There's a
The
remote
ma-
control up behind Evan on that cabinet underneath the right monitor, the right screen. That might be able to control the camera. Give that a try.
All right, everyone, just hang tight for a few more minutes. We're going to wait for a few more people to show up, and then we'll start the presentation. And then we'll have a discussion, and then we'll follow that up with some member updates.
And for those of you online, I will also be monitoring the chat if you have anything you want to put in there.
Welcome. Yeah. We'll start with some new member introductions. We'll just wait a couple more minutes here. Got to have our CSAG chair here. Oh, that's why. That makes sense. Well, so we're at about 5 after here, and we've got a pretty decent agenda. So I think maybe we'll just wait a couple more minutes and then start with some new member introductions. I know we have one new member here with us today. So we'll just hang tight for a couple more minutes here. Hmm. All right. Well, let's just get things started. Welcome, everyone. So this is the 2026 preliminary budget CSAG meeting. I'm going to take us through a presentation, and we're going to look at a comparison from what's in the preliminary budget versus what was approved last year. We'll talk about some of the differences and some of the line items. Today we have with us DOMI's fiscal coordinator, Evan Gross, who can help with any questions related to anything you might have budget-wise. But first, I thought I'd like to start with a new CSAG member icebreaker. If you'd like to introduce yourself. Test, test, test. All right.
All right. Great. Hopefully this is better for folks on Zoom. My name is Armin Sammy. I'm the chair of Better Streets Lawrenceville. I'm the CEO of a company called Dashcam.bike that focuses on bicycling safety and parking enforcement of cars and bike lanes. And I care a lot about safe sidewalks, safe streets, safe bike paths. And I just moved to Friendship on the Neighborway. So new fan of the Neighborway. Streets is the number one request of city residents right now. Right? This is where people have it's where they realize that our investment needs to be safer streets and helping Pittsburghers accomplish that mission. Sweet.
I hope everyone heard that okay. So at this point, I think it's just time for us to start the presentation. Okay. That's great. All right, welcome everyone. So here's the agenda. The slide shows 3 items on the agenda. We're going to go through, that should say 2026 budget. I'll fix that. And then we're going to enter a Q&A phase. And then following that, we'll have member updates, which is just an opportunity for you to share things that are exciting from the work that you're doing in your area. Let's see, we got a message here.
Yeah, Jeff, can you share your screen?
Yes.
The people online can't see the slides.
Okay, here we go.
That's good. I can see them now.
All right, perfect. Okay, so we've got the agenda followed by a Q&A, and then we're going to do member updates. So on this slide, you see that we are in the preliminary budget 2026 meeting for the Complete Streets Advisory Group. This slide has 4 images of work that was done in 2025 that relates to the Complete Streets policies. The goals of this presentation are to expand the understanding of the budget process for CSAG members and to present the preliminary 2026 capital budget. And then the outcome of this will be to create another recommendation for City Council before final approval between City Council and the mayor. Accomplishments from the 2025 budget recommendation was a pot of money for bus shelter improvements that is installed in tandem with sidewalk projects, so creating a larger bus platform for bus shelters to be installed on. This year, we're looking at about 3 to 4 projects being installed. There was about $110,000 that was approved in 2025. We haven't used all that money, so we still have funds for 2026. That money was not included in the preliminary budget, and so we'll talk about that a little bit later. And on this slide, you see an image of a bus shelter at the corner of Hamilton Avenue and Oakwood in the Homewood neighborhoods. So first we'll talk about Critical Sidewalk Gaps Program and their funding. There are approximately 1,300 miles of sidewalk in the city of Pittsburgh, and approximately 83% of them, or 83 of those miles are owned by the city, which is 6% of the total sidewalks. We have an image here of a project that was done in 2025 on Bentley Drive in the Uptown Terrace Village area of the city. On this slide, we're looking at completed projects in 2025. There was approximately 2.7 miles of new or restored sidewalk. 4 of these projects were on the high injury network. And over here on the right, you can see a map image of Pittsburgh with the locations of these projects, all 9 of them. You can see north side, east side, south side all received projects. Were very equitable when we're doing these projects. And now we're going to talk about the 2026 projections. So in 2025, there was a total of $1.5 million that was in this program. Some of it was DCED grant money, which we don't have anymore. And as you can see here, in 2025, there was $800,000 allocated, and this year we're looking at a 50% reduction, approximately down to $400,000. So we're looking at about half as many projects that could be funded through this pot of money, 3 to 4 projects, and one's being carried over from last year that wasn't completed on Heron Avenue. The traffic calming and safety program is one of our more popular programs that we run. These include speed humps and tables, raised crosswalks, pedestrian refuge islands, traffic circles, chicanes, changes in lane widths. And over here on the right, you see a project that was completed this year on Meadow Street, and you can see a speed hump. Here, we are looking at a map of the projects completed in 2025. Approximately 5 miles of road received traffic calming measures of some variation. 4 of those were on the high injury network. And on the right, you see a list of all 12 and their locations. Just to remind you all, I will be putting this slide deck online so you can review it later when we're talking about making recommendations for the City Council budget recommendation. And here we're looking at the 2025 completed projects that are intersection safety improvements, which are, like it sounds, just strictly at the intersection. 4 of these projects were on the high injury network. You got one at Federal Street in Parkhurst, Darlington, Beacon at Whiteman Street, Forbes Avenue, Denison Street, Larimer and Shetland, Lincoln Avenue, and Rowan Street. And still in the same category of traffic safety projects, these 4 were completed in 2025, totaling 3.5 miles of road receiving improvements to these corridor projects. 2 of them are on the high injury network: Penn Ave right sizing, Mossfield bike lanes, Terrace and DeSoto, and South 18th Street Phase 1. Phase 2 will continue next year when it warms up to finish that South 18th project. So looking forward to 2026 for traffic calming and safety, previous year we had 1.13 million, and this year we're looking at the preliminary budget giving us 1.1 million. So essentially the same. So you can kind of expect the same number of projects and the same caliber of projects. Preliminary, we're looking our list for traffic calming projects. We've got 26 total. That would be 11 neighborhood traffic calming projects and 14 intersection safety projects. All right, moving forward, traffic signals. There's about 615 traffic signals, signalized intersections in the city. And this is an image of some downtown work on a signal project. In 2025, we completed 4 signal projects. Bayard and Neville, Aiken and Ellsworth, Penn and Highland, Forbes and Braddock, and you can see those are all on the east side over there. In 2026, there's no new additional funding for signalized intersection projects, but projects of this nature are multi-year projects. So things are fully funded and there was no capital money that was allocated in the 2026 budget. But all projects that were previously identified are fully funded and moving forward. So there will be projects to report on, positive work, positive improvements to safety to report on in 2026, but there was no new money added in the preliminary budget. There's approximately 145 bridges in the city of Pittsburgh, and they're crucial connection points for our city and our neighborhoods. This is a Heron Avenue Bridge that was reopened this year after being closed for some inspections. And here we are looking at the 2026 projections for bridges. In 2025, there was 11.5 million. In 2026, there are 11.5 million down to 11 million. And I just want to point out here for you guys to understand, if it says TIP next to it, that's not capital money coming out of Pittsburgh. That's money coming from the federal or state level. I just wanted to put that in there so that you could show what kind of state and federal support we're having. But again, like I said, there's no new city of Pittsburgh investment in the bridges in that regard. But I do want to point out that you can see here down in the right-hand corner, there's the Bridge Preservation Fund for 6.4 million. So that's just what it sounds like, making sure the bridges are taken care of and maintenance and stuff like that. We are chipping in the city 420,000, and the rest of that is coming from the state. So there is money that we're putting in towards it, but not new projects necessarily. All right, now we're going to look at city steps. There's over 1,200 city steps that are maintained between DOMI and Department of Public Works. And here is a project that we completed in 2025 on Windhurst. And this is a map of 2025 completed projects, 7 steps projects throughout the city, scattered throughout the city: Windhurst, Downing, Stanton, McCandless, Milner Street, Elbin Street, South 18th Street, and Hozak Street. So this is one section that I want you guys to take note of. In the past, we had a budget line item, urgent step upgrades, and that's been funding for the last several years, about 5 to 8 projects per year. In 2026, that pot of money was denied. So on that previous slide, these projects here were all funded through that pot of money that we're not looking at receiving in the preliminary budget. We'll circle back on that because I think that's an important thing that we could take a look at for our recommendation. In 2026, there's some federally funded money for these 5 projects: 56th Street, Clarehaven, Dixon, Ottawa, and Potomac. This money is coming from the federal government, but it's being administered through PennDOT. So there's like a specific design phase and a phase of the project. So that's what this money is here that you're seeing. But the urgent step upgrades line item that we asked for that we didn't get in the preliminary budget is kind of more projects at our discretion where people identify issues. And lastly, we're going to be looking at paving estimates. So in 2025, there was 19.6 million. In 2026, the preliminary budget is looking at 16.3. So that's a decrease of 17%. And that would equate to about 33 miles, down from about 42. So that's, oh, there we go. Whoops. So those are some of the areas where the budget is staying the same and going down. And then here are some conclusions from what I've just presented, some main key takeaways, but obviously I want you CSAG members to look through this information. I'll put it online. We'll review last year's budget recommendation and anything that you see that is caught your eye. Of course, our CSAG Chair, David White, is going to be spearheading that process to make that recommendation. So we'll be asking for volunteers, people that'll help review or make comments on this recommendation. So the process is looking like, and Evan can help me out on this, but usually the budget is finalized by the end of December. Is that correct, Evan?
The budget has to be passed by the end of the year.
Yeah, okay,
So the mayor's final budget should be released on November 10th. That's traditionally when it's released. It's traditionally the second Monday of November.
okay,
And that's when he goes to council and does a whole presentation to council to unveil his budget.
okay,
So that should be happening in the next 2 weeks or so. And then after that, all the departments will have budget meetings starting from then running through mid-December.
okay. So I think for this group that we want to have our recommendation close to around the 10th. Our letter of recommendation last year was really strong, and as we saw in the presentation, we got some wins out of it. And I'm happy to discuss with you guys what you've seen in the budget. But here are the three conclusions that I think that we can focus on. Of course, please add whatever you think is important, but the critical sidewalk gaps program got shorted by 50%. And that's essential for people to get around to buses, to just getting around the city and walking around the city. The urgent step repair fund that I showed you that slide, those are really important projects. There is no money for that anymore. There are step projects that are going to be moving forward through federal funds, but there's no city money. And I think that that's a really important part for our complete streets policy. And then the third element is important, just that we don't lose sight of it. And it was our big win from last year, is that the additional bus shelter, there's no additional bus shelter funds for us to make these improvements to the sidewalks and platforms, to make platforms for bus shelters. So those are the three main things that I've put together to share with you guys. I'm sure some of you have looked at the preliminary budget as well. But as far as timeline goes, I think that within the next week, David, we could set up a document together and start adding in some of these. It's not a rewrite. We're going to be doing some edits sort of situation. But so these are the three main things that I've found. And then please, with your professional and personal experiences, make recommendations, volunteer to help David in making these edits to our recommendation. And so our goal is to have this letter in the hands of the city council sometime after November 10th. Does that sound good to you, David? Yeah. Okay. All right, so that's the presentation. There's more stuff in the budget that don't necessarily pertain to the Complete Streets policy, stuff that DOMI's going to be doing. A couple things that I forgot to mention. Part of the reason why the paving numbers are a little low is because the NFL draft. So those are paving miles that we're not counting in the same kind of capacity of like equity and, for our network. There is money that's going towards the NFL draft in those areas. Another thing that I wanted to point out was we did receive $1.9 million in county RAD funding for Shenley Park bike lanes and a shared use path. That does fall under the Complete Streets policy. So that's a pretty big win. But again, these aren't capital funds coming from the city of Pittsburgh. They're coming from outside sources. So it's good to note that there are multiple funding sources for us to do this work. But as far as the needle that we can move, some of these things are outside of that, like this county funding. So at this point, I think we're just ready to open it up. Unless you'd like to say something, David, related to the recommendations or Yes. Yeah, let's get you a mic. Or you can come up to the lectern if you'd like. Yeah, just to say thank you to the to Jeff and here in the room we have Kevin and Evan. Thank you so much for preparing this really helpful starting point for the discussion. I'd love to hear from more people in this room and online reactions. And just to repeat what Jeff just said, which we are hoping to have consensus from the Complete Streets Advisory Group on making recommendations for the budget. I think we have an opportunity to be ambitious in our suggestions and reactions to what's been proposed. And so I just encourage people to be ambitious, to think in ways that maybe we don't see on this proposal. And then I have a couple questions, but I'll let other people jump in.
Uh, maybe a note to start, and I don't know if the information is on hand, but I don't know what the total budget amounts what it looks like compared to last year. I know it's a smaller amount, so I know a lot of the funds have shrunk, but probably, disproportionate to the amount that the total budget has shrunk. So, not great, but that, is in the back of my mind. But another question, I'm sure other people have this in mind, is, how much can we expect the new administration to come in and potentially change the budget? I don't know if that's something that we have some sense of what that'll look like, or 0 sense. Is it kind of a mystery? But if anyone could speak to that, I'd be pretty curious.
I don't need it. I sat up here, so I did not have to play with that mic. So answering the first question about the change from 2025's capital budget to what's proposed in 2026, the budget's dropping by $20 million on the capital side, primarily dropped by a $10 million, $12 million drop in the bond funding, which is the biggest part of capital funding. The other big drop is in other, which is primarily tip funds. Last year's budget was a little bit skewed because it got $6 million of money specifically for Charles Anderson Bridge, which was 100% state and federal. So kind of boosted that up. And if you look at 2024, where we got $48 million of federal money, it also pushes that number a little bit more skewed. And then I think in 27, 28, 29, when we start getting into construction with some of the bridge projects that are in design now, it's going to go up again and make this one year look very low, but that's because just the phasing of where the tip bridge projects are at, because they're getting closer to being in construction, but until the construction money comes online, it doesn't get reflected in our budget. So in a few years, you may see that tip number, which is right now, I think it's down to 26 million. 1 second, because I do have it up. It's 26 million now. It should jump up probably 30, $40 million in the near term future. And what was your second question? I don't think any of us have any knowledge about what's going to happen with that.
In your past experience, does it seem like the needle moves a lot from when the mayor makes their recommendation?
It shouldn't change drastically. It's the change from the preliminary budget that was released at the end of September until now is usually just some small technical corrections or moving some minor things around. I don't think you're going to see a massive change.
We have a question in the chat as well. The question is, has DOMI followed / requested any funds for sidewalk repair from disability that could be accessed through federal programs like the USDA's Section 504 home repair program, state funds, nonprofit or nonprofit organizations such as Rebuilding Together?
I don't think so, but I think that's primarily because those funds, so DOMI only addresses city-owned properties. I know that the Gainey administration has had the pilot program of doing sidewalk repair, helping private homeowners repair their sidewalks. But that I think has fallen under DPW and not under DOMI. And I do not know what the future of that program looks like as we come into a mayoral administration change.
No other questions in the chat right now, but
Any more questions in person or online?
David?
Thank you. So I thought talk led the next year. Are there disproportionate reductions? I think we're getting closer to understanding that. I'm curious to get to the conclusion slide. On top of Tasha's questions about areas that use, are there areas of the budget that have flat or perhaps even increased that we should be? That's my first question.
The traffic calming program basically remained flat. The
Bridge repair remained basically flat.
bridge repairs,
It grew on the operating side, not the capital side. So
Exactly,
bridge repair is
yeah.
a little bit weird because it's split between operating and capital. So there's some tasks that fall under the operating budget, and those are the ones that are deemed that aren't going to have a long-term like a long-term impact. Like bridge washing is something that needs to be done on a yearly basis and not it's gonna keep a bridge standing for another 20 years if you do it consistently, but it's not a capital expense.
you can see here on this slide, we have Bridge Preservation and Restoration Fund, 200 million in 2025. And it went up to 6.4 million. And like I said, approximately 400,000 of that is capital funds and the rest is tip money. So that's a massive improvement, but that's just preservation. If a bridge needs like an overhaul, that's not included. But
Better? Yeah. Okay. So we just learned or had our attention called to one part of the budget that is flat or close to flat, which is bridge maintenance. And you also mentioned one other area right before that, which was traffic calming.
traffic calming, yep.
Traffic calming. Can you go to that slide?
Yeah. And I wanted to point out, this is a good point that you're framing it like this, David, is that my conclusion slide is simply wanting us to get back to 2025. It's not an improvement in operations. It's just, that's what we had. And okay, so here we are, traffic calming. So essentially the same amount of money as 2025. Which would mean essentially the same amount of traffic calming improvements. We've got a list put together, a preliminary list of traffic calming projects and traffic intersection safety projects, which are just mostly focused at the intersection pedestrian level improvements. My sense overall is that we are maintaining funding on a couple projects, a couple programs rather, and we have lost funding in a couple other crucial ones, such as the Critical Sidewalk Gaps program and the bus shelter, the new bus shelter platform program, improvement program, didn't receive any money that was asked for, and then the steps, the urgent steps program didn't receive any money. There are going to be projects that go forward in those categories, but specifically related to steps, there's going to be a lot of federal oversight. So they'll take a different cadence and they won't be as responsive to constituent concerns that might be conveyed through 311 or the city council members. So I would say overall, we kind of have a bit of a net loss. A few programs well appreciated in the community programs, the funding is staying the same. Paving is going down. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I think on this slide that we're looking at for the traffic calming in 2026, the takeaway that Jeff just mentioned there, that this is a category of spending that is remaining flat, is looking at the pay-go. So that is the amount of money that city dollars are going toward traffic calming projects, and it is basically flat for 2026. I'll just say that this is a wildly popular place to spend money on. Neighborhood response to traffic calming has been overwhelmingly positive, and it is an opportunity for our group to insert ourselves into minor design changes that really improve bike and pedestrian and other complete streets commitments in the kind of overall strategy of calming traffic. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'll just, because I'm here and I see the word POGO here, I'll just mention that both of the line items that you're looking at there are outside funding. So the bottom one, the 3.2 million, is federal dollars from the Federal Highway Administration. So the city sees none of that. And then the what's called private, so that's on the tip. And then the private is foundation dollars that will go toward helping implement those projects. And so none of those dollars that are lumped together in the other category in 2026 are city funds. Can you quickly, maybe Evan, remind us for everyone in the group, what is the tip and what is the cycle, that sort of 2 to 3 year cycle, and where are we at in that process?
Okay, so the TIP is the Transportation Improvement Program. It is managed by PennDOT with money from FHWA. And it is on a rolling 2-year cycle where projects get added. We just, I think, have started adding projects to the 2027 TIP.
Yep.
And there is a long-term plan of projects going out, I think, into the mid-2030s, but that's not as set in stone as what's in the 2027 TIP. I can't speak.
Yeah, that's helpful. So I just want everyone to understand that when we talk about the TIP, the plan is a regional plan that needs to be approved by the SBC, and the money is funneled through from PennDOT it can come from all different sources, federal and state. And so the influence that our group can have on that process is for 2027.
Yes.
Everything between now and then has already been decided. So I just want to put some context in the timing of that and if you see that phrase TIP, how important that is to bring those outside dollars into the city of Pittsburgh.
Which the city's been very fortunate because that's what's funding the Charles Anderson Bridge. The city is putting up no money for construction on a $55 million construction project, and that's all because of the TIP. So SBC has been great to work with on that regard.
Yeah.
And we've drastically increased the number of TIP projects we had. Back when Domi was founded, we would have maybe 3 or 4 TIP projects at once. We're up to having 30-ish active projects on the TIP right now. So in 8 years, we've drastically increased our portfolio of what we're getting from the state and how much we're working on in that regard.
That's great.
That's great news. And my very limited experience is to say that administering those funds is incredibly time consuming, challenging. It takes a deep knowledge to understand it. And so having the bandwidth at the city to go after and to plan for and to do the local matching for those funds is a huge asset to our city and a huge reason for why this group should be advocating for more staff and more bandwidth to attract those dollars. Does that help put into context for people kind of now that we understand there's no area of the capital budget that is increasing for next year?
Not on Domi's side. I think there's some increases in other areas of the capital budget, but not specifically in Domi's portfolio.
And so the best that we're hoping for here is areas of the budget, of Domi's budget, that can remain relatively flat or see more minor reductions. And it's worth pointing out two areas that our group is incredibly invested in: traffic calming and bridge maintenance are those two top categories that are not seeing big reductions. Now, can we get to the conclusions and talk about areas that are seeing some significant reductions in spending for 2026? Okay.
Whoops, sorry, one second. There we go.
Okay, so Jeff, can I just ask you to kind of repeat and put a little context into these? Into these three.
So the critical sidewalk gaps is a DOMI program where we go throughout the city and we look for connections to community spaces, grocery stores, bus lines, that sort of thing. And we identify deteriorated sidewalks past the point of safe mobility or sections of the city that have no sidewalks at all anymore. So it's a very popular program for neighborhoods, and that is receiving a reduction in to the tune of $400,000. So last year we did, or this year we did about 8 to 9 projects. A few of them are funded that will carry over. For instance, Heron Avenue didn't get finished this year. That'll happen next year. But essentially, we're looking at half as many projects of these sidewalk projects, which is fundamental to the Complete Streets policy as a way to get around through the city. So, I love that you're saying, David, let's dream big, but this slide is strictly just like, can we stay at 2025 levels? So I think that that's not a terribly large ask, if we want to be modest in our edits to the CSAG budget recommendation. Secondly, here we have the Urgent Step Repair Fund, and I'll just share some numbers with you from previous years. In 2023, this fund had $500,000. 24, it was $550. 25, it was $650, and this year we were asking for $750. So kind of just keeping the rate the same with a modest, cost for adjustment and prices and labor and whatnot. And that funds several crucial step connections. And those step connections can be identified through 311 or city council. So it's us reacting to the community. Whereas this federal money that we're receiving is stuff that is going to have a lot of state oversight. It's TIP money. It's going to be a lot slower in process. And they're great projects and they're going to be great rehabilitated connections. But this is essentially like a whole category of money going away. Not a reduction, but completely going away for our own discretion on fixing steps. And then this bus shelter improvement fund, like I said, was the big win that we had out of our recommendation last year. We got about $110,000. We didn't spend all of it, so we are going to be able to do more projects in 2026 and possibly 2027. But I think it's worth advocating for because we do it in tandem with sidewalk projects so that when you're improving a sidewalk and there's a bus stop there, while you have the cement people out there, you lay an extra large pad if there's the room for it, and then you install a bus shelter. And it's a win for PRT, it's a win for the city. It's a smart coupling of money and projects to have that. So these are the three things that I identified that just bring us back to current levels, not asking for anything above and beyond that. So that's a good distinction to make, David, that this would just be asking for maintaining what we have.
Thank you. Can you also remind us about the overlaps between PRT and city funding for bus shelters? Or if there are any? I guess the question is PRT doing any of this work, or does the city own all of the bus shelters, and are we responsible for improving all of them?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Evan, but I believe that through Gateway, we manage all of the bus shelters in the city.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah. Outside of the city, that's probably up to the municipalities, but this is like a quality of life feature that we manage within the city. I'm not sure. I think that there could be opportunities for maybe cost sharing with PRT. I know that the bus rapid transit, those really nice ones, that comes with state funding and stuff like that. But I believe that all of the bus shelters in the city are funded through programs like this and other grant money we've received.
That's my understanding also. And I just want to bring that up to say, at a moment where PRT's funding, future, and budget is at threat, anything that the city can do to help improve the rider experience is a wonderful use of taxpayer dollars. And so this one is, although it's a tiny piece of the city's budget, we're talking about $100,000 in 2025. I'm going to kind of try to elevate this one in our group to say that this is something that we should really be advocating for. Making our bus stops more pleasant is a huge step forward in encouraging transit use.
Are there any questions online or in the room? Any comments? Let me take a look here. Let's see here. Brandon says, overall, I would say that this is a great progression for the department. With our infrastructure so heavily dated, these projects need to increase further, though. Taking away the sidewalk gap and bus shelter improvements in that manner is dangerous and inconvenient to pedestrians and handicapped people. Can't agree more. He goes on to say, same idea as when PWSA needs to open the ground. You check the gas and other utilities to tackle issues for efficiency's sake. Sidewalks and bus shelters go hand in hand. I think that's a great point, and I think that that's a good, when we are advocating for that, I think that's a crucial thing to add, that the critical sidewalk gaps program and this bus shelter work essentially do get installed at the same time, or the elements that make them collaborate are installed at the same time. So I think that that particular element is going to be really good to add to our recommendation. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments online? Well, Josh? I'll have to have a question. Look like you're going to ask a question.
So this is just a capital budget that we're talking about so far. I know in our last letter, we had a recommendation for additional inspection staff to handle work areas, inspecting those, and other things like identifying ADA miscompliance, stuff like that. Is that part of the budget finalized? Do you know if those inspectors specifically have been funded?
So the operating budget's going to get released at the same time as the capital budget. For 2026, Domi got 3 new positions, a Vision Zero coordinator, and then an infrastructure engagement manager and two communication side staff to keep up the work and make our engineers sane by not having to also design and then also coordinate public engagement for our projects. So those are the three new positions we're getting or drafted to get in the upcoming budget. There are no additional inspectors for DOMI at this time.
Got it. No, thank you. And it's exciting to hear about those positions that have been funded. I'm sure they'll be well appreciated in the department. And I guess, my follow-up is, is the operating budget something that we look at and consider as we're drawing together a letter and, is it maybe a copy and paste from last year, or do we go in do we go further, or how do we maybe adjust that ask, I guess?
I think you would see, especially with an administration change coming in, I think the operating budget is more fungible or more reactive to what an administration change would want to do. So recommendations from you guys probably would have an impact to whichever new mayor comes in. So I think it would make sense to also include stuff on the operating side, not just capital.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that that's something that we could check in with Director Martinez on. As far as operating budget, we didn't get what we wanted last year, so I think that there might be a new avenue that we might be able to reframe that ask. But it's definitely something that we want to have in the budget recommendation. All right, well, I think we'll table that from there. We'll just have a quick recap. So around November 10th is when the new mayor's budget is going to be presented. And so we want to have our letter ready shortly thereafter. So, within a few days after November 10th, I think is when we'd want to present that letter of recommendation. And we'll put together a document. Is there anybody, show of hands or in chat, that would be willing to take a look at that document and help David draft and review? Okay, thank you, Tosh. That'll be great. Thank you, appreciate that. Feel free, we'll make it public to the group for people to chime in. Again, it's kind of it's an edit, it's not a rewrite, but I think all comments are valid and participation is crucial. So appreciate that from all of you. Wonderful, thank you, Elisa. Appreciate that. So at this time, I think we're pretty good on the budget. We've got a few weeks. Is there any final thoughts, David, you want to share? Okay, so we're going to move quickly on these revisions, and we're going to get some feedback from Assistant Director Martinez as far as operating budget, staffing, and requests like that. It's a fluid process, as you guys all know. The new mayor's going to have some objectives, and so there'll be some changes. But it sounds like from Evan's experience, it doesn't change a whole lot.
It might be one or two projects that
Yeah.
would swap here or there, but I don't think it'll be anything major.
Okay. All right. So appreciate all you guys' feedback. We're going to shift gears now in the second half of the meeting for you all to share member updates, CSAG member updates. For new members, it's just an opportunity for personal or professional things that have happened in your life that you want to share with the group for the benefit of the group. And so we'll just kick that off if anybody wants to start. Please, yeah.
Is that for me?
You go ahead, Elise. I'll come after you.
Okay, sorry, I can't tell. And knowing my luck, the bus will start come the moment I start announcing stuff. Uh, is anyone here on this call not familiar with the work that Safe Sidewalks crew is doing for mapping sidewalks with Domi? Is this something that's been described before?
I think this is a good opportunity for you to share with the group.
Oh, fantastic. So, starting a few months ago, we have there's a coalition called Pittsburgh Walks that's made up of a number of bike ped advocates in the area. And we had, especially on behalf of Bike Pittsburgh and Access Mob Pittsburgh, met up with Domi to talk about the fact that, we want to map sidewalks to help improve sidewalk quality, but in a way that, with 311, it will tag low income homeowners in a way that's going to disproportionately hurt them. And we were brainstorming a way to come up with a better option, a better program. And we've come up with, now Domi did all the legwork on this. I give Domi all the credit for this. It's a sidewalk mapping website app type thing that is being used in the city to map the quality of sidewalks on a block by block basis. And so we can go out into neighborhoods and use this app to look at the conditions in terms of the surface, the curb cuts for the ADA ramps, blockages, things like that. And we've done a few trainings now, and we're starting to get some good work. So first of all, I just want to, I can't, I'm at a bus stop. I can't easily type this in the chat or anything, but if you go to pittsburghwalks.org, spelled out how you would think, on the top, there is going to be a link for Safe Sidewalks crew. If you click that, you can get on the mailing list, things like that. But we have upcoming trainings. There's one actually tomorrow, I believe, from 2 to 4 p.m. at the West End Carnegie Library. It's not on the website yet, but we have one on November 17th in the evening at East End Brewing Company. And then as we start getting into winter, we're going to start doing some online, Zoom or Teams or however we do it, but online iterations of the training for folks who are interested. So really encourage, especially if you have ties to neighborhood groups that you think would be interested. Um, we really want to focus on just J40 neighborhoods, which are neighborhoods that have, large proportion of low income and marginalized people living there. Have I missed anything, Jeff?
I think you covered it really well. And one other thing,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The nice thing is it takes on average maybe 2 minutes to map a stretch of sidewalk in a regular area. Like sometimes you've got the big long stretches, but for the most part, like it seems like a huge commitment that you're gonna like do 50 pieces of sidewalks. But like I, in my wheelchair, could probably do 50 pieces of sidewalks in an hour and a half, which on a nice day, that's a good walk getting out. It really helps the city. Oh, here's the part that I should have said. So the two things that can come from this: one, it helps Domi map where all these critical sidewalk gaps are so that they know where, to best spend the money that we're getting. But also the data can be used to show the city not only, hey, we've got a lot more critical gaps than you thought, we need more money to fix it, but the pilot program that Mayor Gainey did with the low income homeowners being able to tap funding for fixing their sidewalks and stuff, can use that data to show that we need increased funding for that. So I'm a huge fan of data. You can't have too much data, and this can all be used for some really good stuff to help the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So from the city side, where this got kicked off was in 21 or 22, we received some money to map the sidewalks in the Homewood neighborhoods. And so we had a complete network map of those sidewalks over there with images every 10 feet. And I did an analysis to see how much that would cost to do the whole city. And at that time, it would be about like $500,000 or so, and that money never materialized. And so it's kind of been this thing that we've been talking about in Domi of how do we get a handle on what our sidewalk conditions are. And so we've created a 1, 2, 3 GIS survey that asks a series of questions that kind of expand as you answer them. Is there a sidewalk? If you answer yes, then it asks what condition it is. If there's no sidewalk, that's the end of the survey. And then we have that data point, that sort of thing. So it's a really useful tool, and we're excited to be collaborating with Pittsburgh Walks, and they've been doing a lot of training. We've got over 500 sidewalk segment entries throughout the city, and their focus on communities of need is fantastic. And so we're able to hand over to our engineers a data set of photographed sidewalks where it just says there's no sidewalk or it's an impassable sidewalk. And so they don't have to go out into the field. They have a short list that they can then go out into the field, but they're not out there just tromping around. So it's a really exciting thing, and it gets communities interested in evaluating their sidewalks and kind of putting their thoughts and words to something they experience kind of intuitively. People will leave a sidewalk and walk on the street if it's no good, but having people think about it and talk about it kind of contextualizes it in a different way. And with these data points, with Pittsburgh Walks and maybe Bike PGH in the near future, maybe in a few months when we have a few more hundred data points, I'll be doing a presentation. And so we can track like super users, we can track neighborhoods that have the most complete analysis, we can track council districts, and this information can be shared with anyone, and it can be shared with council members, and it can encourage community groups to get involved and help with the process. So it's a really good tool for transparency and collaboration with the public. And Alyssa's been great to work with on this.
You're the true hero in all of this, I promise.
I didn't catch that. What's that?
I just said that you're the real hero.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, who's up next? Yep,
I assume people online. Oh, there we go.
There you
Now
go.
they can hear me.
right down the barrel.
So I met with Pittsburgh Walk. So since we're on this topic, I'll tell what I told them. I bought a new house, and City Tree is uprooting the sidewalk. City has a process for fixing that, and I thought it would be a super easy process. And after about 3 months of fighting, I'm pretty good at navigating city bureaucracy, and I am unable to navigate this bureaucracy. So I'm documenting all the little things that are happening. It starts with like make a 311 report, but you have to make it to forestry, not to sidewalks, because sidewalks goes to Domi. This is not obvious to me. I assumed if it's a sidewalk issue, you label it sidewalks. So I waited a month. I didn't hear back. I called forestry. They're like, we don't see your 311 reports. Anyway, this keeps happening over many, many different steps, and it's a very complex process. We talked today about when you're fixing a sidewalk, if you can add a bus shelter right then, that's more efficient. The same thing's happening with like lead line replacement. If you can replace a whole block at once, that's more efficient. I think we can see some improvement here where I don't know what it is, but you could imagine like repairing a whole block of sidewalks at a time. You could imagine some program where you go to a block, you go to all the homeowners on that block and say, hey, the city wants to do your whole block. If you pitch in this lower number amount of money, we'll do it all at once. And then you don't need to coordinate over, I think it's 4 different departments to get this fixed. Plus find your own contractor and like figure out the seasons that it works. The process is just way too complicated. So I would like to bring it to this group to see if there are ideas on how to improve it. Right now, I'm just documenting the steps, and I think this will take about a year before I get my sidewalks fixed, which is unfortunate for all the pedestrians coming in winter, but I think it's just too late to pour concrete.
Yeah.
So I feel guilty about that, but I don't think there's anything I can do.
I think 100% this is a group that can help put together some sort of policy recommendation. You've accurately noted the challenges between cross-department kind of responsibility and jurisdiction, even between DPW, which forestry is in, a different set of, a different bureau of DPW actually does the, the sidewalk work than the trees. And then there's permitting that you have to get for a closed sidewalk where that ends up back in Domi's court. So there's a lot. And I think that you documenting this is going to be a great step to have for having a conversation like that in the near future. It's something that needs to be streamlined a bit. Different cities have different ways of doing it. And I think, welcome to the group. I think that that's a great thing that we can focus on. And if you're willing to help us steer that kind of conversation, that'd be fantastic. Do you have anything else you'd like to share from your dash cam or anything like that?
I'll note, I didn't catch your name. Tosh. Tosh, you brought up inspections. One of the things I'd really like to see is thanks. Improved inspections of construction sites. So if you are blocking a sidewalk, if you're blocking a bike lane,
Yeah.
you are required today to have flaggers or signs at each end of the sidewalk. Or if you're blocking a bike lane, you need a detour available. This does not happen, and I believe it does not happen because there are not enough inspectors. One of my goals at Dashcam, this is putting on my my business hat, I suppose, is to help the city enforce these rules, right? We have bicyclists going by construction sites, and I have a tool where you can just segment out every construction site automatically from the city side and look at a video of a bike riding by, even a car driving by, and make sure that they are following all the rules of the permit. If they closed a bike lane, you can see a video of whether they have flaggers or not. If they closed a sidewalk and they don't have safe access for pedestrians, you can see all that. So that is one of the things that I'm trying to find a pilot city on. I don't know if it will be Pittsburgh, it may be Detroit, but if that's something folks at DOMI are interested in, or PLI, it's an option we have.
Great. All right, let's see if we got anything online here. Matthew or Clara, Jen, Brandon, anything from your areas you'd like to share with the group?
Not really, but maybe I could say we planted some trees with forestry. With Tree Pittsburgh planted some trees with a forestry department. That was kind of, I think, connected with some of the sidewalk gaps program. So I don't really have much more to add except that there was some coordination that I wanted to mention, that I believe that tree planting came as a result of some of this work to fix some of the sidewalks in Homewood specifically.
Oh, beautiful. Was this at the Hamilton and Oakwood area?
Yeah. Yes, the Hamilton Avenue is where we were.
Oh.
Just on Hamilton only.
Excellent. That's a beautiful project. Yeah.
Between I think Mutsi Way and I don't know if that's Braddock or Homewood. I keep confusing the first streets there, but yeah, I don't know if that rings a bell, if that's connected. But anyway, yes, Michael kept mentioning Domi was doing sidewalks. So I feel like this may have been connected to this work. So thank you for all the things that are happening. I don't have much more to add to the actual conversation apart from that. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, member updates is whatever you want to share with the group. And I think that street trees and beautification of our right-of-ways is an essential component to the Complete Streets policy. So thank you for your work and collaboration. That's fantastic. Brandon, do you have something to share?
Yeah, you guys can hear me?
Go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, so our clerks have been working really hard here at the authority with the automotive cameras and reviewing and issuing the citations for bike lanes. We're still working with their team to make sure that what it's capturing is actually citable, and to make sure that there's compliance, so that for both pedestrians, bikes, and vehicles, that everyone's doing what they're supposed to be.
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that update. Jen?
Thank you. I just wanted to touch base on the Penn Avenue right sizing as it comes to the bus stops there on 29th. I know, I think, was that last month that we had the street visit of that area? We just went ahead and moved those stops and consolidated them into one stop now on 29th Street, and that was effective last Friday.
Excellent. And how is ridership and any comments that you could share with the group? Are things going smoothly?
Knock on wood, so far we haven't had any feedback, either negative or positive. So, we are still working with the city to get that shelter moved over. It's contracted. There's some external factors at play with that, but we are working hand in hand with the city and also Gateway to get shelter there as well.
Excellent. Thank you for the update. I appreciate that. Anybody else have anything?
Thank you. Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership, just a couple updates. So we've been undertaking some sidewalk repair work downtown via a philanthropic grant to the tune of about $200,000, which seems like a lot until you're starting to work on sidewalks. Doesn't go quite as far as you want it to, but we've done a pretty thorough audit, and I'm actually going to need to connect with Pittsburgh Walks to see if our data can kind of transfer over, or I can do the training as well. That's we'd love to kind of share what we have, but focusing on like some of the larger, we don't really have gaps per se, I'd say, in downtown, but we do have varying quality sidewalks. So we've trying to kind of tackle some of those, really deteriorated sidewalks that may pose a kind of barrier depending on your mode, and using kind of tackling those and then going through and trying to address some of the smaller issues in a kind of sweep. So we're learning a lot about, sidewalk repair and the costs, and really trying to make your dollars stretch in those terms. But all of that is, we're glad to have that kind of improve the character of downtown. Granted, it's all a part of this preparation in advance of, you guessed it, the NFL draft that's coming this spring. So the other projects that are progressing, include the Market Square modernization, which kind of just celebrated a milestone of being halfway through its completion, actually more than halfway, but the phase is kind of changing. So the half of the square that was being worked on previously is being opened up, and then the southern half will be worked on until April. Why I mention this is because it will be, we think, a fairly transformative public space, but also kind of redefines how we look at roadways and interactions between vulnerable road users and this kind of like public park space, and kind of like blending those areas a bit. It'll be a curbless street. We're completely removing parking throughout the entire square, removing the southern kind of half of the loop entirely. So it'll only be available to emergency vehicles, but other than that, be a pedestrianized area. So, just trying to drum up some excitement for this and think, hopefully use it as a model for other kind of shared street kind of concepts throughout the city. We're really excited for that. And I think also, just biking through it, I don't know if anyone was familiar with the biking experience through Market Square. It'll be much more level without the Belgian block. So, hopefully people can get a little excited about that. And then there are other park spaces, improvements to Point State Park and the new Arts Landing space being installed by the Cultural District that we're, shepherding through as much as we can, all in advance of the draft. But I know we're throwing a big party in April, but as all of these things will benefit us for years to come, for Pittsburghers as well as its visitors. So, yeah, just wanted to mention those.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there any other comments? Anybody else?
So I believe the draft is April 15th, and I think we're aiming for April 1st. Around then, it'll be close.
Chris, would you mind sharing a little bit from the Reconnecting Communities grant that you're working on? I think it's a really exciting project.
Yeah, absolutely. So hey everyone, this is Christopher Chandler, principal planner at DOMI, working on Manchester Reunited, which is for those that don't know, it is a federally funded project from the USDOT's Reconnecting Communities grant program that the city was awarded. It's a $1.4 million project, a feasibility study, I should say. And yeah, so since I started in July, we've made a lot of progress working with a lot of our more prominent stakeholders, and by that I mean members of the community, business owners in the community, Manchester Citizen Corporation, which is our community partner on the project, as well as PennDOT. Going forward right now, we're actually in the process of working with PennDOT to review some very preliminary design alternatives that we want to present to the Manchester and Chateau community down the line. And in addition to that, actually, we are also planning to partner and work with the Quaker Valley COG, as well as other neighborhoods along the Route 65 corridor, seeing how this project affects everyone. And just for clarification, this feasibility study is only looking at like the mile portion of Route 65 that directly divides Chateau and Manchester. But obviously, because it's a entire corridor, it's important that we work with the communities that exist before and after the portion that we're looking at. So that's something that we're excited to get started down the line as well. And one thing that I would kind of mention to the group is that even though this project primarily relates to Manchester and Chateau, as we continue our community engagement process, if anyone has any insight or feedback that they would like to provide to the project, we're always looking for additional thoughts. Actually, I'm very curious to actually work with Pittsburgh Walks now, because as we're looking at design alternatives, obviously we want it to be as connective as possible. We want the corridor to be as connective as possible. We want to uplift the values of complete streets. So of course, not only are we looking at getting traffic continuing to flow through that corridor, but we want to make it safe for pedestrians, bikers, people with varying types of mobility needs, as well as transit. So we're always looking to converse with people from different kind of sub-disciplines in the transportation field. So thank you for that. And you can reach out to me directly at the city. It's just christopher.chandler@pittsburghpa.gov. Or you can check out our Engage page, which is now live. And that is the State Route 65 feasibility study. So yeah, thanks.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Any other comments or thoughts? All right. One more. David, go ahead.
Is there anyone online or here that could give a quick recap for the Vision Zero Summit? Maybe not. I was out of.
I can.
So,
Can you hear
go ahead.
me?
Yes, go
I
ahead.
was one of the presenters at the Vision Zero Summit. So those of I assume everyone in the room is familiar with Vision Zero, blah blah blah. We know this. So the summit happened 2 Fridays ago. It was a full day affair at the University Club in Oakland, the Pitt University Club. And by all accounts, from everyone who attended, it was a roaring success. If anything, I think we had too many wonderful workshops that everyone wanted to go to, and not enough time to go to them all. Uh, we had an excellent keynote address given on how well Vision Zero is working in different parts of the world, different cities that have, or yeah, different cities in different countries everywhere who've adopted Vision Zero policies and have seen dramatic reductions in pedestrian fatalities, things like that. But yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to know anything in particular, but it was a great success, and I really hope that this continues to be either an annual or biannual tradition.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alyssa, for your participation. I was on the same session. We were doing sharing the sidewalk assessment tool. The keynote speaker was somewhat flattering towards Pittsburgh for all of the work that the advocacy groups do and the city does, and how much passion there is for safety and multimodal accessibility. So a lot of the things that she had in her presentation, she kind of patted us on the back for as a city and saying that we're well on our way. And she's a internationally trained safety planner. So she gives these talks all over the city, and the general sentiment that was that Pittsburgh is on its way, in a good way, towards making these improvements. Um, so I think tentatively what we're talking about right now is that the Vision Zero Summit will happen every other year. Every year probably seems like a bit too much, especially to make any progress to report out on. So I think that we're going to look to do that in 27. But it was a sold out event. It was well received. There was local news there. Mayor Gainey gave a very wonderful speech. There was a really nice lunch and learn with members of the Pennsylvania House and Senate there, and the policy manager for PennDOT. It was a panel of those three people moderated by Assistant Director Angie Martinez. And they were just talking about some of the struggles of making meaningful improvements. For instance, they talked about how Pittsburgh is a second-class city, and so we have our hands tied at the state level in regards to a lot of things, referencing the hardships of getting red light automated enforcement in Pittsburgh because of our classification as a second-class city. Not council member. There was a council member on that panel as well. Strasburger was a part of that. But they were talking about how there's just like procedural things that are baked into the rules that make kind of more rural representation in the state have an outsized voice in regards to what we might want to do in a more urban setting, a more densely populated setting. So it was a really interesting conversation. I can't say that particular lunch session left me with a lot of hope, but it was kind of like illuminating about the some of the bureaucratic nonsense that happens at the state level, and how we get hamstrung by certain classifications. But it was a rewarding session just to hear that the people that are representing us are aware of the issues and not trying to play catch up. Like I feel like sometimes politicians are wise. You find them wisening up to things rather than having those ideas on their own. which I think can be kind of frustrating. But yeah, it was a fantastic session. Lots of good sessions, and it was great. Alyssa, I saw your hand go up if you wanted to.
Oh, I was
add
just
in.
the one thing that I was disappointed about that I think CSAG does a good job of, but the summit didn't, and I put this in the chat, but the panels that I attended, there was no talk of, there's lots of talk of like kids, here's how to not hit a kid with a car, but there's no talk of disability. And, we're one of the groups that are more likely to be affected, by things like getting hit by cars because we're stuck out on the sidewalk and things like that. And I wish that that had been addressed more. And I think that's something that like CSAG has a role in advocating for in future events and things that the city does.
I think you're right on the money there. I think that CSAC does have an important role. And I think that in future summits and in future meetings like that we should advocate for having something like that. I think since this was the first one, it was kind of just like a introduction, overview, kickoff sort of. That's the vibe that I got a little bit from it. But I think that you're absolutely right that we are the group that can help advocate for those sorts of things. All right, well, I think we are good on comments. So next steps, I'm going to pass it over to Dave White, and we'll just have a quick recap on next steps for the budget.
Thanks. Thank you for everyone for joining us today. We will be, I will be circulating a way to provide feedback on the budget. We will also find a way to circulate the operating budget so that we can also examine that and perhaps provide some feedback there too. So look out for an email that gathers those things, and then we will all be carefully tuning in for the mayor's presentation of his version of the budget, which we will be reacting to November 10th.
All right, thanks everybody for attendance. I just wanted to have one quick last question for everyone online and here in the room. Is it easier for us to get together at the city county building? I feel like the security and like, is it easier for people to get to the city county building, or is there more of an interest in the city county building, or? Yeah, there's more bike parking there. How about online? Well, I guess you guys are online. You didn't show up anyways.
What's the alternative location?
So currently we are at 412 Boulevard of the Allies. That's where my bureau got moved to. But previously we were having these meetings in the learning lab of the city county building. You've been there several times.
Yes, I just in general, I like the city county building because it's close to the largest number of transit stops.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, maybe David, we can send out a poll. Maybe we'll put out a poll for. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks for being here, Evan. I really appreciate it. And we'll look forward to that email from David. Take care.
Thank you.
Jeff's harassing Dina tomorrow.